going on, everybody? Up West Sports. I'm Jace. Gavin's right there. Ty's there. Lindsay's there. Joel's there. We're all here. So, for this topic, let's kick it off. Let's head over straight to the association, the National Basketball Association. That is, some big trades have been made, but let's talk about the Luka Doncic trade. What were your guys' reactions when you first heard the news?
Explain it to me because I still don't get why it's that big of a deal.
So, Luka Doncic obviously is a rising star at the age of 25 for the Dallas Mavericks from Slovenia. Luka has been the heart and soul of the Mavericks. His goals were to retire as a Maverick. But what had happened was the trade had been talked about weeks in advance, months in advance even, that Luka was going to be sent to LA. There was a few things they had to work out, including money-wise. Dallas was not also willing to re-sign Luka to a mass extension, so they ship him to LA to a team in the Lakers who definitely can sign him to that mass extension. For the Lakers, this is long term. LeBron's not always going to be there. Anthony Davis was not always going to be there. Bronny's too young to just take over the Lakers and lead them to where they want to go. So they do that with Luka Doncic, and then once Bronny matures, I think you see him kind of fill into that secondary sidekick role for Luka Doncic. There was a lot of moving parts in this trade, and for Luka, I mean, it's the biggest trade probably ever made, really, because Luka Doncic is at such a high level when he's only 25. So in the terms of the NBA, he's young, especially when you keep seeing 40-year-old LeBron drop triple doubles like it's an average Monday. So that would be why this is such a big deal in the association.
And tell me if I'm off, Jace, because, correct me, but Luka, wasn't he either close to, if not the MVP last year? The Mavs did pretty well last year, right?
Yeah, I mean they've been in the finals recently as well. I mean they're not that far removed from the finals. So it was a very big surprise that the Mavericks ownership decided, because the Mavericks ownership are the ones who made this trade. It wasn't, the GMs weren't involved, the coaches weren't involved, the players weren't involved. It was owner to owner. The Mavericks owner, which I can't remember his name, called the Lakers owner. Can't remember his name either right now off the top of my head. But the owners called each other and made this trade happen.
But first they consulted somebody, and his name's LeBron James.
It made it seem like he was surprised, but
Jace, run me through a little bit on how contracts in the NBA work. What's a max deal when they refer to max deals in the NBA? Isn't it percentile?
A max deal is about, in terms of years, somewhere in the 10-year range. And the Mavericks weren't going to be able to do that. And everybody knows when you have a guy like Luka Doncic, who's young and could play through that 10-year contract, you're going to give him that 10-year contract because you want him on your squad as long as you can. Dallas wasn't going to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, I guess what I was trying to get at was that Luka is probably one of the most prolific scorers we've seen in the last 5 years. But on the opposite side of the ball, he's a ghost. So you want to ask for a max deal. To me, those guys, that goes to guys who they may be slightly less prolific scorers, but they produce on the defensive end too.
The problem is,
I think that's probably why. Go ahead.
The problem is what's defense in the NBA anymore?
Right. It's a good point. Yeah.
You have 2-3 guys who are defensive specialists, and that's it really in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all you need. One guy that can play lockdown defense regularly, and you're a contending team.
Was it Draymond Green who was talking before the All-Star break about certain guys getting certain fouls and certain guys not getting certain fouls?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
I'm not saying to bring that back, but maybe a hand check should come back. I don't know.
I think a lot of things in the association really should come back. We're seeing it in the college game even now. I know, Lindsay, you work around college sports quite a bit. I know you probably have seen the physicality at the college level is not there what it used to be.
I mean, I cover 2 college basketball games a week, so Thursdays and Saturdays. And I mean, it's definitely, but also here's the thing is I'm 23, so like when it was like at its peak, I wasn't watching college basketball, so like yes, I like know what everyone's talking about, but I don't know like what it looks like in person. You know what I mean? It's interesting because it's definitely not as physical, but it's still, I think it's getting better. Like I would say like 4 years ago when I started, it was like the refs would call even like a little tap. They were like foul. And all of a sudden like you're shooting free throws like it's nobody's business and it's just crazy. Now like I mean I would say this season, if not half of last season, it's gotten, I don't want to say better because like you don't want to say like physically is like better, but like they're allowing more things. So I don't know. It's kind of like interesting. Like I think from what I've seen, and again, I only see certain schools, but like
I do want to share something with you guys. And I saw this floating around Twitter. Jace, you might have seen it as well. It said, put this trade in baseball terms. I'm going to share this with you. I think you guys will all love this. Hopefully I can share it here and present it. Present. Boom. Share screen.
I think you got to take into consideration the basketball trades are always a little bit weird.
Not the Reddit.
It's funny because I want to see what your guys' opinions are. Some of them are actually pretty funny. One of them was Ohtani for Judge is a bad comparison. Like that was one of them. And said Ohtani for Judge is a bad comparison. Ohtani is 30 and Judge is 32. AD is 31. Doncic is 25. Witt for Trout is probably the best comparison. And I'm like, okay, like I can actually see that one. One being very good, but way past his prime. And then here's my favorite one. This is like trading Machado and a plate of nachos for Bobby Witt Jr.
Plate of nachos is crazy.
That is.
You got to give him a little incentive. You got to give him a little bit with the plate of nachos. Come on.
It's one full plate of nachos.
Yeah, I mean that's like trading. And I say this, and I'm sorry, Dad, but like that's like trading Clayton Kershaw somewhere. Like, come on. Like, what are we doing? Like, yeah, no duh, that man signed another deal with the Dodgers. He's gonna retire. Like, come on. Like, it's a worthless trade. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But also, why would Luka want to stay with a team that doesn't want him? Not doesn't want him, but like that's what I mean. Like, if they're not willing to like if you want to keep, like, you think the Lakers, like, they want to keep LeBron, they're going to pay LeBron whatever they want. They would have done whatever they could have done to get Bronny because that would have made LeBron stay in the game longer. Like, if you're not going to make the sacrifices, I mean, it sucks for him, but he's also only 25. So, like,
yeah, that's interesting.
You could love the Lakers, my guy. You could love that LA.
From the sounds of the people that I know that are really, really closely knit with teams in the association and people in the association, it seems that Luka had no idea that Dallas wasn't going to offer him a re-signed contract. It was like Luka was in the complete dark. And with how this trade planned out, I would not be surprised if this truly did catch Luka by surprise. Because nobody saw this coming. I woke up at 2:30 a.m. to a tweet from Sham saying that Luka was traded. And I say, yeah, okay. Then I wake up the next morning, open Instagram. It wasn't kidding.
It's real.
Tell me what direction you guys think contracts trend across the leagues. I tend to believe that the NFL drives most contract trends, but every once in a while the NBA comes out and does something pretty innovative. I sort of wonder to what degree like this signifies a change in the way people go about doing this. Because like if you're not willing to pay your big star now and you're willing to going about it a different way, right? Like I don't know if the Mavericks have the numbers, or I don't know what numbers they're crunching. I don't know what they're thinking. What kind of draft picks? They only got a second rounder, if I thought, right? In return, it's unprotected second rounder. Yeah. So
Yeah,
Still like just
they got
scratching your head, but
you-
the way trades are valued in the NBA are different than they are in other sports. It's not generally a fair in the NBA. It's just a little bit different.
Like you're not equal.
Yeah, second round in basketball too is
nothing.
it's
No.
I mean, it's a Jalen Wells go Cougs, but that's it's What are your chances of a second rounder really pulling through and being big?
Well, I just wonder, we look at quarterbacks in the NFL right now and look at teams that are paying their quarterbacks 17 and a half, 18.5% of their team's cap. And we look at a team going and saying, hey, 25-year-old star, you score a lot, but you don't play on the other side of the ball. We don't think you're worth, I think he's 30%, allowed 30% of the cap, of the team cap at this point for a max deal. Like, maybe you turn around and that drives trends the other direction, where now teams go look at quarterbacks, go, well, we're not going to give you $55 million, Brock Purdy. I don't know.
I think too, it's like disappointing. If like Jace, what you're saying is correct, and like how he had no idea this was happening. Like I think about like, okay, I'm 23. Like he's 25 years old, playing for this team, committing it all, and like they're gonna make this life. And I'm not saying like ask his opinion, but like tell him maybe before the news breaks, or like you see that so often, like teams coming out of the locker room, and then this guy finds out he's traded. Like it happens all the time. You see it in baseball, you see it in basketball, and it's like they're people too. He's a 25-year-old kid. He's still on his parents' insurance. Like I mean, like this is a child. Like at least consult him.
And how does that affect the rest of the players? You'll see reports, or like they'll be interviewed, and you can see their faces as well. Like, well, they all have the same response. It's a business. I guess it's a business. It's proof again that it's a business. Like, is that the mindset that you want to have with people that are left? I don't know.
That's the thing, is I think it makes organizations look really dirty when they do that. And it's like, I understand it's all completely a business, and these are all basically like, they're employees, but it's also people that have spent their entire lives training for this and given up so much. Like I think the least you can do is be like, I'm going to give you a warning before ESPN breaks it in 7 minutes. You're being traded. That's it. Like, not like you could stop him in the hallway and just like, you could give him a text. I don't know how he found out, but like, I mean,
we'll see. And
I can
also
only imagine
being removed from NBA a little bit. Ever since the Sonics left, I've been a little, I'll be honest, I've been a little butthurt. I haven't been paying attention as much. Big trades like this, I try to lock in and learn a little bit more about. But seeing the city of Dallas just absolutely lose their minds. Now, granted, media is media, so you never know exactly how the entire fan base looks or feels. But from what I've seen, it looks like the entire fan base of Dallas is against this. And yeah, you're operating a business, but what's the point of your business? Is it to, do they project more wins without Luka? I doubt it. Is it to keep their fans happy? That should be part of it. And they did neither of those things. So that's, if you're attacking it from a business perspective, and you're going about it in a business way, right? Like this is all like, we're not even going to tell them. We're just, see ya, goodbye. Like,
I mean, and like kudos to the Lakers, like, because you think about it and how many people, like, yes, people love a team, right? Like I'm a diehard Dodgers fan, like till I die. But when Corey Seager got traded to the Rangers, or whatever it was, but I follow the Rangers now just to see him, So like, I'm not a fan, but I'm a Corey Seager fan. And so I follow, you know what I mean? So these Dallas Mavericks fans, like, I mean, they're now going to not be Lakers fans, but like maybe they're in LA and they catch a game because Luka's not playing for them. You know what I mean? Like from a social perspective, like that, I mean, the Lakers obviously won in the deal, but like the Mavericks, like they messed up with their fans. And
I think so.
I wouldn't jump and say the Lakers have won the deal yet. There was a third team that was involved in this trade that got a steal of a G Leaguer, the Utah Jazz, that were in that deal. They literally were just there for, I think it was to even out the cap or something along those lines is how it worked. but that G leaguer that the Jazz got, he's gonna be a problem to come. I wouldn't jump. Yeah, obviously Luca, like
Who
it's a
was
big
it?
deal. I'm looking at it. I'm looking for his name
It
right
was
now.
Connect, was it?
It wasn't Connect. No, the
Oh, and like he went back.
Connect. Yeah, that trade got vetoed or whatever they said it was.
Something about LA and just getting the biggest names that are available.
Well, I mean, this isn't you got to think about all the trades that LA has made. They've acquired Wilt Chamberlain. They've acquired Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in trades. They've acquired
Shaquille O'Neal in trade. Acquired
Shaquille O'Neal,
Kobe Bryant in trade.
They've
Because who doesn't
acquired
want to
some
play
big
for an
names.
LA team? They're the best around. What are
Well, I
you
mean,
talking about?
did they acquire Kobe Bryant in trade or did they acquire the draft pick in trade? I can't remember.
Some of them were draft pick trades, but like still acquired via a trade.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like people just allow this to happen, which is kind of
Max Christie. Is that who you're
unreal.
talking about?
Yeah, no, he was sent to Dallas with Anthony Davis. I can't even find where.
Jalen Hood-Schifino.
Yeah.
Hey, Combine Academy, by the way. Jalen Hood-Schifino was at Combine Academy.
Yeah,
And then he transferred to another really good, prestigious high school. But he was there for 1 year while I was there, along with Robert Dillingham. Both ballers.
The other thing is, this isn't the first time Luka's been traded. He was traded on draft night. Them in Atlanta, he was drafted by Atlanta. They sent him to Dallas. Dallas traded Trae Young to Atlanta. So this isn't really the first time Luka's been traded. Yeah, he hadn't been a part of the team, but nonetheless, this isn't the first time we've seen Luka Doncic's name be shipped, and it was kind of a surprise to everybody.
25-year-old Luka, though, isn't quite the same as 25 everyone else, though. Like when he's 16 playing up against 40-year-olds in Slovakia, traveling with the team and playing against other adults everywhere he goes. 25, he lives a little older than 25 in player age, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about the European guys. The European guys, and really just, and that goes for a lot of, I feel like, international sports, like basketball, baseball is included in that, is these players that come over internationally have been playing pro sports since they were like 16 pretty much, or younger. So they come over with a whole level of pro experience, but they're a rookie in the association or in baseball.
Yeah.
So it's really they're playing adults nonetheless.
Yeah, I did want to point out, even though overseas may not compare as far as competition goes, you're still playing against grown men, and you're still playing in more of a business setting and being, I guess, forced to be more mature, or to figure that out. Because even though the competition isn't there, because some people that's I know that's the first place a lot of people are going to go. Oh, the competition's not the same overseas. Oh, okay, but you're still playing against grown men, and you're still learning the game at a very, very high level, because their experience is going to also play a factor in some of that. The pass they made at 21 isn't the pass they made at 30, 31. Maybe they're a little bit more smarter,
That brings up something that I think makes me laugh when Noah Lyles said something about the world champions. Everybody across the world is trying to come over here to win a championship. So how are they not the world champions? I mean, that's a whole nother topic we could go off on.
Go.
So I mean, but like the thing is, and like, I mean, yes, like 1,000%, like, but at the same time, it's not for every like sport, I would say. Like, I mean, I obviously I don't think we're assuming that, but yes, the majority of the big sports, like people want to play here because our competition, I do think, is just like next level. I do think it's also because of the way that Americans are raised, and like that, like if you're not going to be the best you can be, like don't do it. And that's not the prerogative everywhere else in the world. But with soccer, something I'm learning very, very quickly in my new role is we're like the Europeans of soccer. And it's something like it's so interesting to me. Like we're starting to sign all these players for Tucson, and they're like, oh, so many of them are foreign because they're not ready to go pro in another country yet. So they have to come to us first.
It's like
And I was like, oh, we're like the stepchild that like lives in the barn. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, okay.
It's kind of a talent pool issue where most of our good athletes go play football, basketball,
Mhm.
baseball, maybe not as much as soccer, and that kind of. Versus you go to South America, their entire talent pool is playing soccer.
Yeah.
You know, you go
How
to
smart.
Western Europe, their entire talent pool is playing soccer.
Mhm.
You know, so
But it's just so interesting how like these major sports that are major to us, right? Like everyone comes and wants to play, and like our, you know, not G leaguers, but below a G leaguer is going to play in, you know, Lithuania, and you know, hope to come back here. Like you're playing pro in another country, and you still hope to come back and play pro here. At the end of the day, like no, it's just like it doesn't compare.
But I don't think you see that in soccer like you were talking about. I think everybody knows that the European League soccer's that's
Oh yeah.
the highest level. Whereas they know, I feel the NBA, the NFL, well, the NFL really doesn't. You get foreign guys in the NFL, but not like you do baseball and basketball. So those guys are trying to come over here to play. Whereas the guys that play soccer or women's soccer for that matter as well
Mhm.
also try to go over to Europe to win a world championship.
Mhm.
Yeah, they might just be playing intercountry or intercontinental in Europe, but they're still considered the world champions at the end of the day.
What
And
do
I
you
don't
guys think about the title of like baseball? You know, like World Series, stuff like that. Like, should it be the World or should it be National Series champ? Like, wow, what do you like? I mean, it's such a almost a hot topic, but not really.
I
Yeah,
think it's world.
Of it.
it's it's world because you have the best players in the world playing here. Now, with that comes a caveat of yes, some of the like Roki Sasaki was not here last year, and I would argue that he would be one of the best players in the world, or at least you know he's argued for that. I'm not saying he is for sure, but he's argued for that. Especially like he's going to hit the ground running, and the Dodgers are probably going to have a Rookie of the Year and get the first round pick in the comp round because he's so freaking good. I think it is the best players in the world because the best players in the world come here. That's where I would put it is because the best players come here. You have the best talent pool here from the world. It's not just like, oh, it's only America and it's only Dominican and it's only Japan. No, it's if you're good anywhere, you play here, which evolves into the World Baseball Classic. You know, that was needed for a long time, and I'm glad they're doing it every 3 years now. I think it's is it next year? I believe it's 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Qualifiers start this year.
Yeah. So now some of those players, like you know, I had two former players that played for the Czech Republic, and those were just a bunch of guys that worked at their version of a Walmart over there that just picked up a baseball and they haven't played in forever. You know, some of them played over stateside, some of them still play over stateside, some of them are 18, 19 years old, throwing 92, 94. And they were able to showcase that. And now that brings exposure to them. They get picked up by an MLB team, or at least be given that opportunity. Some of them, one of them with the Georgia Tech. Now he transferred to Chipola. The other one's back home playing professionally in Czech, trying to come back over and play stateside somewhere. So yeah, I think the World Baseball Classic bleeds into this conversation because it's opened that door of, hey, we want the best players in the world playing right here on the stage. So in my opinion, yeah, World Series is framed up correctly.
Well, and the World Baseball Classic with that whole topic of the whole like, is it the World Series? That kind of when Japan beat the U.S., people were like, "Oh, so the U.S. isn't the best baseball league there is." Look at how many of those guys on that Japanese roster play in the play in the MLB or in a MLB system. I know there was a few guys that were in some systems for some teams. You got to look at that too, because that just shows you they're trying to come over to play in the MLB here.
Well, also,
Well,
I mean,
until you get
go
rid of
ahead.
foreign player limits on other leagues, the MLB is always going to be the biggest league. You don't have foreign player limits. You can have as many Japanese, Cuban, Mexican, Dominican players you want on your team as you want. But you go to Korea, I think it's 3. Japan, I think it's 6 or 5 per team. So you're never going to get the competition levels like you were going to get in MLB because you limit your talent pool by doing that.
I wanted to add one more thing in there, because is it only debatable because it's a team sport? Because there's the World Series of Poker, and no one seems to have a problem with that because it's the best players in the world. But because it's not a team sport, no one has a problem with it. So yeah, I also allude to that, or I kind of assimilate that situation where it's the best players in the world playing on one stage. So.
The World Poker Championship is crazy.
That is kind of wild. That
It's
was
like cornhole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I will
Not saying
say
it doesn't take skill.
I know we mentioned it in episode 2. I'm going to run it back. Pickleball is one of the most exhilarating sports to watch right now. Not only play, but watch. It is actually a lot of fun to watch.
Is that
well,
what you do on the weekends? Is watch pickleball?
gotta
this
be.
weekend,
Gotta
this weekend it was chock full of college baseball. We had opening weekend. We had so much college baseball to watch.
Let's talk a little college baseball. Why don't we? A little college baseball. Any surprises that you guys saw in the opening week of Division I baseball? Division II been going on for a minute, just so you know.
Joel, go ahead, take it away.
Cared. All you, Joel.
Surprises. I was telling Ty about this guy I saw at Texas. I think I heard his name floating around. He really, really surprised. He's like, he's another version of Josh Hader. His name's Jared Spencer, and he's with University of Texas. He is absolutely nasty. He's 96, 98. I think he's topped out at 100. He transferred in from Indiana State, but he is now one of my no one was talking about this guy, and now he's a potential first rounder, maybe even maybe a second rounder. I'm hoping with the second Mariners pick, I think they have like the number 35 or number 36 pick after their number 3 pick. He's a guy that I would want. Jace Laviolette is renowned as the number 1 hitter in all of college baseball. He didn't have the best weekend, but then he went off today. Absolutely off today, made up for it. 3 home runs in 3 days, including 2 today with a grand slam. Yeah, he's still my number 1. Now, granted, it's against Elon. Elon they'll usually have like 2 or 3 pitchers that are like really good. And then it kind of drops off after that. You get more of that 88 to 90, 90 to 92 range with just kind of average stuff. And this is no disrespect to Elon. I've sent players there before. Yeah, Jace, did you get to watch any college baseball this weekend?
I was working a lot of college softball this past weekend, but I was trying to keep up as much as I could. Yeah, I think you hit that one on the head. How do you say his last name?
Laviolette.
Laviolette.
There's if you follow 11.7, he calls him La Purplish because he can't pronounce his last name. But yeah, I thought it was LaViolet, but it's La Violette.
Yeah, I'm looking at it
that
here.
one. Yeah, he is. Also, I have my 3 favorites for first rounders next year already, and I'll go ahead and drop them. Drew Burress, who obviously we all know him from last year. If you pay attention to college baseball, he had 20 plus home runs as a freshman. The other one is Derek Curiel, who is a freshman this year, but he's going to be a draft eligible sophomore next year. He's the real deal. He's playing in an absolutely stacked transferred lineup at LSU and still competing. And then
he got robbed with 3 hits tonight.
Yeah, and he's smoking the ball.
Robbed.
He is smoking the ball. Now, granted, they played Purdue, Fort Wayne, some kind of smaller school. Yeah, it was
that
was
center
a good
fielder tracked down 2 deep that he took and then just laid out for one. He got robbed of 3 hits. He should have had 3 hits today.
Yeah.
3 extra
Kuriel
hits.
is the real deal. I think he'll be a first rounder next year. If he's not a first rounder, I doubt he jumps in the draft. He'll probably come back for another year. The third one, Will Gasparino. He is a right-handed version of Jace Laviolette. 6'6" center fielder. Has it's true 5 tools. He ended up having a home run. I think he might have had 2. But I remember seeing him hit at least one home run the other day. He is going to turn some heads this year for sure.
Okay. I like to hear those. Any front runners right now for you that I mean, I know it's very, very early in the year, but who are the 3 teams that you expect to make a run in Omaha? And this goes for everybody, whoever wants to say anything. I'm not just going straight to Gavin, but anybody.
I think A&M's the highest touted one. But I don't see them having the pitching that compares to a couple of other teams. I think they make it to Omaha. And anybody has a chance once you get to Omaha. Credit 2016, Coastal Carolina, my buddy Anthony Marks, shout out. So once you get to Omaha, it really is anybody's game. You win the first game and you set your bullpen up super nice for the rest of the tournament. The team I think is going to be the problem is probably, in my opinion, I think it's going to be LSU. I think LSU had all the transfers, their entire lineup is like transfers from Wofford. Some dude, Zach Cowan, I think is his name. He had a 2-point-something ERA. He's 94, 96. He's just dirt nasty. And then they got another guy from Mount St. Mary's, these really small schools, kind of nooks and crannies of the nation, and just finding these dudes that are going to come in and just give them depth and give them prowess. So I think LSU is my winner of this year. And it'll be interesting to see what happens.
How good of an OSU team has this been in recent years, Gavin?
Oregon State?
Yeah.
Oregon State.
I feel like they got a pretty strong upper class, but tell me if they're any good this year.
So yeah, I think their hitting is going to hinge because they have really good hitters. I think their hitting is going to hinge off of how good Gavin Turley is, because Gavin Turley is supposed to be very, very good. And he had a pretty good year last year, but his batting average, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't have his stats up in front of me, but I think his batting average usually is pretty low considering college baseball and where he's supposed to be at. If he breaks out this year and he is that first rounder that everybody talked about out of high school, I really think their lineup has what it takes. They also don't have an arm or a few arms that really move the needle. I think they have, I can't remember. Oh, they have Dax Whitney. Sorry. They have Dax Whitney, who I covered in actually one of the IPAs and ERA segment. And he's a freshman. That's a lot of weight on the shoulders of a freshman, but he rose to the occasion. I mean, he had 6 innings, 8 strikeouts, no runs against a pretty decent UNLV team. Shout out Matt Sigafus. And Jay Snows. Yeah, I mean, the team is going to be good. I think they're in the same boat as A&M. I think A&M has the edge because they have a few extra hitters that are a little more proven. But with Ava Arquette there, with Gavin Turley that could turn a corner, I'm trying to remember some of their other hitters. But with that, and if their pitching staff can be above average, even if they don't have any standouts besides maybe Dax Whitney, yeah, I think that they can make a decent run for sure.
Arquette was the name I was waiting for you to say out of Oregon State, the second baseman, I believe.
Yeah, he's a 6'4" second baseman. I don't think that lasts. I think that's only there because he was a transfer, and I think he was a later transfer. So they may have just used him at second base because they already had a shortstop and a third baseman. I haven't seen him move left and right, so I'm assuming he's not at short because he doesn't move left and right as well as maybe some of the other guys, and maybe his projectability is more second base, third base. But if he's going to have the power that they say he has, he's a third baseman. It's like not even Not even close. Unless his
Yeah.
arm is just terrible or he's had some surgery that we don't know about that kind of limits his mobility. Yeah, Arquette is and if he has something wrong with his arm, maybe that's something that you talk about on, because he's supposed to be a first rounder. He's supposed to be a top 5 potential overall pick. Does he go to the Mariners at number 3? If he has an arm problem and you can't put him at 3rd, that kind of limits him. Maybe that boosts him back to the 2nd round. If he doesn't have arm problems and they're just putting him at 2nd because of their roster just being that good, I'm excited to see what this kid can do at third base at the next level.
Speaking of Mariners, how happy were you Mariners fans when Alex Bregman decided to go to Boston?
See ya. AL West just got more competitive, but also 2 franchise players, 2 of them, leave the team that we needed them to leave. The A's got better this year. I think they got better this year. The Angels got better this year. The Rangers, Ty and I have talked about this. They won the World Series with almost the same roster 2 years ago. They're a sleeping giant. I really think it's gonna come down to like the last 5 games between 3 teams, if not more than that, for the AL West title.
With the ALOS though, the A's and the Angels, they're the A's and the Angels. They could have a stacked roster. We've seen that in the past with the Angels. Didn't work out for them. Now the A's, with everything going on with the A's last year, that was kind of a problem, I think, all the way around as a franchise. When you've got something like that happening, it's hard to focus on just the baseball things. Like they say you should be able to, but in all reality, you're not going to be able to at the end of the day. Because that is that's happening. The team's moving. You've got to figure out like what's next for you as a player. But no, I think the ALS after Bregman. I was surprised when I got the alert that he was headed to Boston of all places. But
I did actually call it on one of our segments. Kyle and I broke down where he could potentially end up. Tigers seemed very fitting because they have AJ Hinch and because he fits what they're kind of looking for, and they are now in a competitive window when they didn't think they were going to be. Yeah. And then the Red Sox. Those were the 2 that we kind of broke down. If he didn't go back, I said that there was going to be like a 90% chance he goes back to the Houston Astros. But $40 million a year, you can't turn that down. Who's matching that besides the Dodgers? Not even the Mets. Mets aren't even going to match that this year.
But I think going off of
no one was even close.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, Lindsay.
No. I was just going to go off of what Jace was saying about the A's. I think it'll be interesting this year because of what happened last season and because of everything that was going on with obviously like the team moving and all that, where they're moving to. Like, yes, it's the Giants, like minor league field. It's not a bad place to be. It's in a much nicer part of Sacramento than anywhere that the A's stadium ever could have been. If you've ever been, it's like one of the worst places you could be. And a lot of that region of California are A's fans. Like, I know more A's fans than I swear I know Dodgers fans, because that's where like I grew up, is in Sacramento, and like people are stoked. Like, they are so excited for this team to come, and I think to turn it, like, I think it'll be really good for the team to be in a place where A, they know they're wanted, and be supported, because again, no one was going to A's games, and I think that obviously like affects A, how you play, and B, how you like perceive yourself on this team. So now to be somewhere where they're supported, I think is going to be a complete game changer.
Ty, Jace got a question for you, and Lindsay, and Joel, we'll get you in here soon. Brent Rooker hit 39 bombs, or was it 40? He hit 39 plus bombs at Oakland Coliseum. They're going to Sacramento, which is in a PCL. It's a PCL park, which is known to be a bang box for hitters. How many home runs does Brent Rooker potentially put up? And what are his offensive numbers after batting 260 plus, 39 plus home runs?
I think just knowing I think just knowing that ballpark and knowing I mean, I don't know, I think it's gonna be so interesting to see. I think oh god, I don't know. I know that ballpark so well, like, ugh, I don't know. I don't know if I could put a number on it.
Understandably, it's not Reno. Reno, the ball flies probably the most out of out of all ballparks. I'll learn how to talk one of these days. But yeah, curious on your thoughts, Ty and Jace.
I think 50 plus. I think he's going to get better protection with Lawrence Butler being more dangerous. He makes the lineup longer, and I think that ultimately bodes well for him. And I could see 50 plus.
Let's see. I'm trying to think like A's lineup. I think that, like you said, the protection there with Butler is going to be huge. I say north of 43, but no higher than 47.
Double
And
fair.
I don't know if we
So
I don't know if
specific.
I don't know if we see 50. 50's crazy, but that's kind of where I'm at here with that one.
Nice. Nice.
I like it. And I'm going to say good solid round number. I'm going to say he ends up with 45 and has the potential to hit 50 plus.
I still don't see the A's as that big of a threat. I think they're going to be pesky to anyone who plays in the AL West. I think the Angels are going to be pesky to everyone who plays in the AL West, but they didn't bring anybody who's ever been on a winner. The A's just they're not winners. You know, that's the same problem I have with the Mariners. They've never brought anyone who's a proven winner. And Houston and Texas, the only two teams now that have proven winners on their rosters. And so it's really a two-horse race right now, in my opinion.
The saving grace for the A's in all this is health. If other teams happen to go through injuries and that bullpen that they have that is just it's Rays-esque. If that bullpen stays healthy and they get just decent productivity from their starting pitchers, and like you said, pesky. If their hitters are just pesky with having a Brent Rooker, with having a Lawrence Butler that do what they're supposed to do, I wouldn't be surprised. But it does come down more so to health. I think if what's his name, Ronel Blanco or one of those guys goes down for Houston and they're just kind of looking at a rebuild year. If the Mariners end up, knock on wood, they end up dealing with some stuff. Yeah, I think between them, they have it higher than the Angels, in my opinion.
I want to show this real quick. Talking about the home runs, this is, if it'll pop up, this right here. So the yellow is where the A's will be playing this year, and the green is where the Coliseum outline is.
It's not actually any bigger than. Well, that much bigger.
It's bigger than the Coliseum.
Here's what I like to point out about the O.co though, is that it's enclosed, or it's like it's so much higher. So you have elements that aren't quite affecting it. You're at sea level. I think Sacramento's up. Is it up 1,000? Is it up 1,000 or yeah? And Phoenix, for reference, Phoenix is up 1,000 feet and the ball flies here. So there is that. You're not wrong. The dimensions do play a factor and potentially in favor dimensionally for Oakland. But we've all seen the PCL games, and I don't know, the ball just flies. Maybe the pitchers are just 4A guys, and that's just how it goes. But I am interested to see. This is a good test run to see what happens. But I think there's a chance that Rooker has those numbers.
The ball flies until you get into the RMAC, and then it just takes off.
And then it just takes off.
I think there's a chance that they're like a 65 to 70 win team, but then if you don't put them down, if you don't put them away, there's a chance that they're a 78 to 80 win team, and if they're at that range, maybe they're making moves at the deadline and knocking at the door 82 to 85 wins. I think it's very possible for them to be north of 500 this year if other teams slip up.
Yeah, the Marine Layer pod guys, they had Trevor May on their podcast, and they had deemed them frisky. that was their term for the A's. And they talked to Trevor May, and Trevor May even said, they said, hey, are the A's going to be frisky this year? Do they have a chance to make a little frisky run? And Trevor May said, yeah, I mean, you can never really count out the A's. For some reason, they're just able to win with those non-knowing names. They'll put a band together with just a bunch of nobodies and win. and they'll be frisky. So yeah, it really does come down to their health. Their bullpen's already good. They did lose Lucas Erceg, but they still have Mason Miller, and they still have a couple of those other guys. I think they still have one of the Mariners guys, Austin something. I can't remember his name. But anywho's,
before we make Joel fall asleep talking all this baseball nonsense, let's switch some gears. Super Bowl, obviously, it's over. Eagles really did a number to Kansas City. Joel, starting with you, was anybody surprised with the outcome?
I'm gonna say yes. I was surprised. I wanted the Eagles to win, but
in division.
Well, say again. Sorry.
You wanted a team from the same division.
I know. Believe it or not, only because of what
Saquon
you said earlier, Lindsay.
Saquon,
exactly. I followed. I was like, you know what? He deserves a chance. Like, let's see what happens. And they were making all the right decisions alongside it. People were like, oh, but what about legacy? Like he could have broke this record, stuff like that. I was like, yeah, let's see what happens when you put him in the right situation. You keep him healthy, right? You got a fantastic large offensive line. Let's see what happens. And we saw.
Those are some large humans in Philly.
Oh man, yeah, they feed them well. Them steaks are getting out there. Those cheese steaks. But yeah, when I watched that game, I selfishly, I always go to the line first. I always go line out, and watching it right out the gate, I was like, yeah, it's like an intimidation factor. I watched the Kansas City offensive line flinch over and over again. There was little tells. I was like, man, they are not jiving together. They're not staying consistent. And I didn't see a consistent general within the offensive line like echo things out. Like you could just tell it was just chaos. I was like, right away, yeah, this is not gonna work out very well. It just seemed like they were just on their heels. Especially for a team.
It looked like Philly just dropped back in quarters all game and just said, run the ball, test us, run the ball at us, but they never ran the ball at him.
Exactly. Yeah. You think they would have adjusted. I was just like, it's weird. It's so non-Chiefs. But again, because I had no shame and I was, holding on to the coattails of Saquon, I was like, I wasn't too upset. I just wish it was more competitive. I'll say that personally. That was not the type. I didn't want it to be wrapped up, the last 25% of the third quarter. That was weird.
I think too,
go ahead.
I just think when you talk about how, essentially how the Chiefs blew it, I think they've kind of just become more of I just don't think they're focused. They had a great season, and not to diminish anything they've done, but I think coming into the Super Bowl, there were more storylines about this 3P and and I think it just becomes more of a media spectacle and more of in your head. So I'm yes, these are all grown men, but still you have to think about the fact that you're in your third Super Bowl in 3 years, and if you hit this 3P, then you XYZ and Patrick Mahomes and his kid and whatever's going on. We got Kendrick at halftime. I just think how much is in your head, and then you think about how much is in the media, and at the end of the day, we're all human. So think about how much it gets to you. So if your quarterback's not communicating with you and, there's a break and this is not the same, I don't think the same Chiefs team we watched all season. They were just so unsure of themselves. And it was what is happening in these 2 weeks off of football or 3 weeks off of football that you guys look like the little league team? I was I'm so confused. And I think it's because I think they got in their own heads.
Yeah.
And they were worried about the wrong thing.
Joel, player experience question here. Seeing, I guess, just a complete dismantlement of Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, the defensive line for Eagles did phenomenal. Does setting the tone early mess with the quarterback for the rest of the game? And do you think that that's what happened, or was there another factor that you noticed in the game, just dissecting it on your own? Was there another factor that you think played into Patrick Mahomes' downfall?
I think it did indeed play into it. I think they purposely did it and watched him. I think normally other teams in the past had played against them trying to be safe a certain way. They did not. They went after him like they were like, not that he was like a rookie, but it felt like they probably watched enough film to say, hey, here's some weak points in their offensive line. Let's exploit it. That's what it felt like. As I was watching it, they basically destroyed their own trust within their own, like where they're supposed to be protected. I literally watched him, just his facial expressions. Sorry, I was like, I just watched his facial expressions, and I imagine the thing is, it's normal, not that I played too much offensive line, but just like being friends with some and being witness on some bad ends. It's normal for your quarterback to spaz out on your offensive line. There's going to be a point where it's like, hey, what are we doing? Like, we got to get together. These snaps are coming weird, whatever it is. It felt like he was getting quiet just from watching his expressions on his face and like how they're, offensive line are always going to be, they're offensive linemen. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry. You can kind of see it in their face. And I watched him like about face away from them. It wasn't even like it would have been better for him to go in attack mode to them. And I saw less of that. I saw Travis starting to try and talk, but it looked to me from a far distance and like from the time that I played, it looked like he was like, screw it, I'll figure it out. I don't know if I really trust what you guys are going to do. And he started getting happy feet. That's how I experienced it.
Vic Fangio let the dogs eat that night.
Yeah.
I mean, he said, send the house.
He sure did.
Send everybody. I don't care. Send everybody.
Well, and here's another
reading. So I was reading an article beforehand, and they said that 11 personnel with Kelsey in this season, only once did they run the football.
It's wild.
Only once. He can't block anymore, and so I don't think he comes back. I don't think he's back next year at the rate he's asking. But I think that's what they keyed on. They just said, okay, when they jump into 11 personnel, we only got to send 4 every time.
Yeah. We're not worried about. Yeah, I think you're right.
You see Kelsey and 11 personnel, it's a pass.
Yeah.
Well, and here's another player experience question. Have you noticed, early in the game when you have, like, obviously coming from a defensive line standpoint, blowing up the line, getting the quarterback, do you notice the offensive line that you're able to kind of get in their heads first and kind of dominate them? Or is it the quarterback that kind of loses that confidence? Or is it a mixture of both? What does it look like from that player perspective when you're able to dominate the line and get to the quarterback often?
And what does the opposite look like too? What does it look like when the offensive line is dominating the defensive line?
Yeah. No, I can speak to that a little bit. It's always inside out, which is funny because that's like a thing that offensive linemen are taught, like a block inside out. Anyway, but it's in my experience, it's always been me when I played defense eons ago. It was always, if I can get the person that's set to me, that's supposed to set to me, if I can get them flustered, if I can get them distracted, where they're looking around and they're starting to ask for help, then I did it right. And out the gate, sometimes there's some games, depending on how I read film and what have you, I might decide like, hey, I'm going to still be responsible as a D lineman, but my first step, I might pretend like I'm going to do responsible and just plow on this person's chest as hard as I can the first 2 plays, if I can, just to get like in their mind, like, hey, this is going to be a dogfight. It's going to be rough. Like you're working today. And offensive linemen are amazing, but you can see them break. There's a point where when even just when offensive linemen are going to set up, in my experience, there's a thing that normally every offensive lineman does because they know eventually once they're set, they can't move, right? And so there's a point where offensive linemen, normally whoever's going to echo whatever they see, hey, this person's 55 is a blitzer or whatever's going to happen. And normally, if you're not the person that needs that message, you're not the person setting the message, then you set up and you're looking forward. But you see a lot of offensive linemen doing this before they set. I was like, then they're getting worried, and they need someone to communicate, or they feel like, oh, I need to figure something out. Too much information is coming. I'm getting hit with too much. I need to figure something out. They're in panic mode, and they might play it off, but they keep on before they set, keep on looking over. I'm like, yeah, you're not okay, and that's
not only that, but when the opposing defensive line is averaging 6'6", 338-pound human beings,
Yeah.
and your
Or
offensive line
440.
is and your offensive line is only 6'5". I think they averaged out at 310 or something like that. The Chiefs did. Like, that's a problem, man. Like,
Yeah. It's a problem, and most offensive linemen, they want to run no matter what team, even if they're like, oh, we do this well on passing, we do this with shotgun. You ask any, if they're going to be honest, they hate pass blocking. They do not like the pass block because you are taking it. You are not delivering.
You're absorbing. Your first step is back and not forward. So quite literally, you are absorbing it and not the opposite. That's. I was always curious. So you really, as a defensive lineman, you're really looking for that flusterness or that overthinking and the not sure what to do, and that's when you know you've kind of won at the line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of D linemen, I didn't do this, but there's a lot of D linemen that will talk. If they start feeling confident, they're not talking like, oh, I'm going to beat you. They do one of two things. They either say, hey, I'm going to do this move, like just want you to be prepared, or hey, this stunt's coming your way. Like, we're going to do a cross. Are you ready? You're going to switch out. Who's coming first? You think I'm going to wrap first? Do you think this guy's going to go? Like, what do you think's going to happen? And like, just to get them to like information overload. Like, there's some folks, which I used to love when people are willing to do it. I never did it. I was like, I'm going to save my wind. But it is phenomenal. If someone does it right, and you can see it, like that's why you'll see when plays finish, even if it's like it's just like a regular incomplete or something like that, you'll see little skirmishes within the offensive defensive line because they've been talking already. They're already like, hey, I'm gonna do this, hey, I'm gonna do that. Yeah. You see how close? I'm coming. Hey, tell your quarterback to watch himself. Like, it's just all that little stuff that happens that accumulates over a span of a game.
You know, and I can relate just like this much to playing defensive line. In 8th grade, I was kind of a big dude.
I love it.
that's what I was. Yep.
Yeah, in 8th grade, I was actually kind of a big enough guy. I'm actually the same size now at 6 foot that I was then. So I just, God had other plans for me. So here I am. But I played defensive end, and the first play of the game that we ran, the barrel jump where one guy jumps over the other and they just basically switch spots. Well, we did that and then crossed from there. That was the first play of almost every game.
You did that on the field?
So we did that, jumped over and then crossed back. And usually it ended up in a sack. If it was a subpar offensive line, it usually ended up in a sack. If it was a good offensive line, it usually it still ended up in that. But usually the play, it's always the play went the other direction. So you never won it. But that was our first play. I do remember. I remember that from Auburn junior football. That was some good old days.
So I think.
Gavin, did you see Clint Kubiak's comment that he said on the kind of offense he wants to run? Well, his first comment he said on the 7-10.
No, I didn't.
First thing he said, "Well, I want to start running with some more fullback."
I did. Okay, you know what? I did hear it. Yes, he wants to bring the fullback back. Guys, Jace, Joel, Lindsay, what do you guys think about bringing the fullback back? It's 2025. Let's get some fullbacks in here.
Let's go. It's about time, is what I say. I don't understand. I mean, I get it. Like, it's so cool and the ball's flying through the air and these quick passes and stuff like that. But this fullback, especially like those weird tweeners, why not? Why not have somebody that you can the action can be incorporated and that can just punish defenses if they're not being responsible? That's the thing.
The league has shifted, right? Like all your defensive guys are fast now. Just a little bit small, a little bit faster.
Yeah.
And so now if you got a big guy, a use check, who can just come in and lay the lumber on the 225-pound linebacker who used to be 255 pounds, 10 years ago.
So the rest of the crew might not know this,
a different tone.
Ty, I'm all for giving Byron Murphy a couple plays at fullback because he actually looked kind of good. He's our defensive tackle, by the way.
He had said somewhere right after the draft that he had played running back in I want to say it's like Pee Wee or something, or at a really low level.
High school to some degree. I think he even played and
maybe he was running people over, and that's what they turned him into a defensive tackle because he was just running dudes over.
usually a telltale sign. You just want to hit people and put you in D tackle. That's if you're big. That's awesome. But yeah, why not?
Lindsay, thoughts on the fullback?
Thoughts on the fullback as someone that's never played football and would never like to be in that position ever, ever, ever. I say why not? I mean, why not? Why not? We're already changing so much. You might as well bring them back. I would never like to be on the field in general. I would not. Nope. I've played golf. Like people are like, oh, let's put no. I belong on the sideline of that sport. But I don't see why not. Y'all can handle it. The guy's like, I mean, why not? That's truly it. That's truly my opinion. I don't have enough of an opinion to be like, no. But I'm also like, why stop him? Bring it back. Why not?
Run the
Lindsay,
damn
I got
rock.
I got some homework for you. His name is Mike. His name is Mike Allstott.
Oh,
Just
man.
give him a Google and watch some of
The
his
Browns,
plays.
that's
This is
something.
why.
Okay.
This is the guy that's he's Jesus. Are you kidding me?
What batting coverage? We still see
Every time.
It's
So it's
my
a
favorite
hand
thing that
signal
happens.
AI tracking, and it gets the best of me sometimes. Mike Allstott, he will
Okay.
rethink. Not that you were against it, but he will absolutely reaffirm
Okay.
what you're looking for in a fullback. This
Uh-huh.
guy could not be taken down. It took
Yep.
at least 11 guys to take this guy down.
Run
what-
That's my
the
favorite.
damn rock.
Epitomizes fullback.
Right? He's what Cam Scatterbo hopes to be, which
Yeah.
he could eventually become. That was-
Minus 6 inches. Because
Oh.
Allstott, if I remember right, let me look.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up right here. He's 51.
That's like 6'1",
right?
6'2", 240-ish, right?
6'1"
Yeah.
now.
This is the
6'1"
first time a
now.
fullback was on a batted cover.
I'm pretty sure Cam Scatterbo is like 5'9", so
Yeah.
no hate. Don't come for
Being
me,
real.
Cam.
Yeah, let's.
No hate.
Don't
But
come for me. Right.
That's crazy.
please don't come for me.
6'1", 248 in his prime. Big boy.
You know,
It's a
since
big
we're
boy.
Big boy.
since we're talking, players, were there any fullbacks even invited to the combine? I feel like there's always one or two that are.
The league has shifted
what-
so much to turning
The
big
combine's
tight ends into their formation fullbacks that it's almost like a position that's being institutionalized out of the game, feels like, unfortunately.
This is so sad. I will say, from a defensive perspective, I hate it when there was a solid fullback. Like, especially at the end, when I played the end, it would suck because you get such tunnel vision, and like a running back. I say little, but a little running back, I'm not really worried about it. I might not even look at them as I'm touching them. But a fullback, you can get your chin lifted up. You could end up on your back talking to the stars.
There were no fullbacks invited
Yeah, I
to
didn't
the
think so.
combine. I'm looking
I
at
was
the
about to say.
list right now.
looking at the list as well. Running back. Okay, so I guess maybe one of these running backs, or maybe a couple of these running backs, could be fullbacks. That's about it.
You could
But
transition them, but I'm looking at the list, and most of
Do you
these
think
names
you're
I
better off
recognize.
getting a big running back to try to play fullback, or you think you're better off getting a small offensive lineman?
I think that's all you got to do, right? Because that's
Got to go one way or the other.
For most schools, they don't even have fullbacks. So,
Well,
what about
some defensive, or not some defensive, it's like offensive tackle from like some D3 school, who's 260, right?
Yeah, can lose some weight.
Definitely wasn't playing D1 ball because he wasn't 300 pounds, but
yeah,
I think that has
really
a better
think-
chance of being a successful fullback than a running back who's spent his whole life with running back skills and instincts.
I think the positions that you could really make that transition to are obviously running backs that are just a little bit bigger, maybe don't run as fast or maybe shift as much, and can be that third down back or the blocking guy. The other two positions are tight ends. Some of them that aren't quite tall enough to make it as a professional tight end. The other position would be that defensive tackle because they want to hit. They want to hit, and they're huge, which is why I'm all for Byron Murphy. If you guys haven't seen him, he's a wrecking ball.
Yeah.
I think he could be Mike Allstott back there. I really do. If it's
a Jerome Bettis style, man.
If it's fourth and 3, I got my money on Byron Murphy to get the first down.
Yeah. They need very little blockers separate from obviously like offensive line. Like a solid fullback doesn't really need like all the fanciness. I mean, it's nice to have things like the tush push that you can make work, but you get a solid fullback that just wants to just. I'm not questioning myself. I'm just putting my foot in the ground and just making room.
Yeah,
Fun. Yeah.
Especially nothing to lose. Like those guys. Like I felt like it really worked. This is relevant to Ty and I just being Seahawks fans, but J.R. Sweezy, he switched from one side of the line to the other, and it ended up working out. I think with defensive line to offensive line, right? Like he ended up becoming.
Correct. Yeah, he played guard for about 6 years in the league, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of F it moments where you're just like, all right, like I get to hit somebody, let's go. Like I'm used to doing this. Yeah, or I get to run the ball. You tell a defensive lineman they get to run the ball, they'll get you 3 yards. They will get you 3 yards.
A whole 3. A whole 3 right there.
It's 3 through 16 guys.
3 yards in a cloud of dust. That's all you need.
Exactly. 3 yards. 3 yards and a first down.
That's all you need.
So we'll hit one more topic here, just because I'm curious as to how you guys saw this. Aaron Rodgers no longer will be with the Jets.
Oh yeah.
Do we continue to see Aaron Rodgers play? If so,
God, I hope
where?
not.
Right.
Love that. And if so, where? If not, okay, he retires. Great, whoop-de-doo. But how do you guys perceive that? And then, as well as, who do you think the Jets bring in to replace him? Too. That's another thing I want to know.
I think an option to bring in an option to bring in is potentially Russell Wilson, potentially, or Justin Fields, one of the two, depending on what the Steelers situation is. But I believe both of them are unrestricted free agents because of where their offense is at. With having Garrett Wilson, with having a couple other weapons, Breece Hall, I think Wilson could consider it. Unless the Godfather offer, right? Like the Steelers come back and say, "Hey, man, you win here, you're staying." Which, in case, guess who's leaving? Justin Fields.
Right.
The thing that I see, I keep seeing this a lot. There's 2 scenarios I see for Pittsburgh. I see Russell Wilson leaves and goes back to Pete Carroll in Vegas.
Oh,
that's another option. Yeah.
And Aaron Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh. And Justin Fields leaves and goes elsewhere. That's what I keep
where Aaron
seeing.
Rodgers should go.
I know Pete Carroll is all positivity and
the retirement home.
Everything goes forward, right? But Russell Wilson went to Jody Allen and tried to get him fired. I don't know if that's a relationship that can be
The thing is with Pete Carroll now being hired in Vegas, there's a few things that I really am curious about. Because, yes, Pete Carroll, we have seen him work with rookie quarterbacks, but is Pete Carroll at a stage in his career where it's like, I want a rookie quarterback? I don't think he is. I think they go get a guy like, obviously, the familiar, the whatever is there with Russell Wilson, or do they go get a Justin Fields? Obviously, Aaron Rodgers and Pete Carroll are not going to work. Like that.
Is there anything else other than Justin Fields on the market right now?
Is Kirk Cousins? Is he available? Nope. Is he getting let go? Because
he's getting like $55 a year to sit behind Michael Penix now.
I was about to say, yeah, because he's gonna be sitting behind. So maybe that's a trade option. I don't know. That could be a trade option.
I have always thought that he would leave for free agency because he sets the free agent market. Essentially, he becomes the quarterback who says, "Here's what I deserve to get."
Sam Darnold's the name.
If I recall, is not a good one. If I recall, this is not a good.
That's right. Yeah, Sam Darnold is one of the other bigger names.
That'll be a name that
and he's only really coming off of one good year, which obviously somebody's going to take a good chance on that.
That's the thing about
that went to Tennessee and did that, and then got paid.
Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick had a good
Tannehill.
Yeah.
That's the thing with the Jets that it drives me up a wall. Look at the quarterbacks that have left the Jets and done well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hey, here's another name. Here's another name that could play for the Jets this year.
Geno Smith.
Sam Darnold. Or Geno Smith.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. He's
Geno-
going
Sam
back.
Darnold just goes right back to
And
to
then
the Jets.
then again, I could see the Jets drafting a rookie QB as well.
I think that's the route they go.
I think I definitely could see that happening.
I'm just throwing out options as far as Russell Wilson, like shaking things up. Because they're on the rise, I wouldn't be surprised if he headed that way. But I think that's the route they're going to go. I think they'll probably try and reach like they usually do in a draft, because they actually don't have a terrible draft pick this year, right? Like they ended up doing a little bit better than some of the other teams. I think
7.
it's okay. They're at 7. So they could go with. Trying to
You
think
might
of
have a
any
shot
names.
at Dylan Gabriel at 7.
They'll have like Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, Will Howard. But I think what they'll do is they'll take somebody like Jackson Dart. They won't take your Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. They won't get them. I think they'll take a chance on one of those other guys.
So
If
obviously,
that's the route they go.
I made a mock draft and I posted it, and this was obviously before the whole Aaron Rodgers situation. I actually had
Yeah.
them taking an offensive lineman at 7.
Yeah.
I
Who do they
could
got
see
now?
them.
Do.
I could see them taking an offensive lineman at 7, and then later in the draft trading for a late first round pick and taking a guy like who I would like to see him take is a guy that's currently in New York for college, Syracuse's Kyle McCord.
I like Kyle McCord. I think as far as like 2nd to 4th round quarterbacks go, Will Howard, Kyle McCord. There was another one. Dylan
Jalen
Gabriel.
Milroe.
Dylan Gabriel, if he does end up falling that way, that
He's
low,
grow
because
2
he is
inches.
a lot of drafts have him going in like the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. I like those guys. I like Kyle McCord going there in those rounds. That's a stab I would take if I was in that position, or even the Seahawks. The Seahawks, they need somebody for the future too. So if they end up going with a Dylan Gabriel or a Kyle McCord or a Will Howard in rounds 2 through 4, I'm more okay with that rather than trying to stab at 18. Unless you're that high on Dylan Gabriel. If Dylan Gabriel, he to me, because he was so surgical this year in the way he passed, I think he's got a chance to separate the other guys. And his one big knock is his height. And we've seen that happen in Seattle before. We've seen that happen.
Well, and he's a lefty.
And he's a lefty. He's lefty, but lefties I can get over because look at the lefties.
I mean, no one runs a West Coast offense anymore, so you're not really that concerned about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I had two quarterbacks going in the first round. I had Cam Ward, obviously, and I had Shedeur Sanders. Those are the 2 obvious ones that'll go in the first round. But outside of that, late in the draft, if you're a team that needs a quarterback for the future, and you're kind of later in the draft, like you're talking Seattle's one of those names that is floating around out there. Another team that has been talked about a little bit has been Pittsburgh, obviously, depending on what their quarterback situation shakes up to be. There's guys like Jackson Dart, I think that could be a steal. Quinn Ewers, I'm not very high on. I think he goes like 6th round because of all the injuries that he had at Texas.
Yeah.
And Kyle McCord's a name. Jalen Milroe's another name. But those 3 guys, like Dart and McCord and even Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame, is a name you could see kind of be a shock. Kind of what
I thought he wasn't draft
we had.
eligible yet. Okay.
Oh yeah,
he is.
He's draft eligible. He's going to the combine.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's a combine invite. So I think that you see names like that pop off the board a little bit later.
I think
But-
just because of his name and because of what he's done in the past, I don't think Quinn Ewers. I agree. I don't think Quinn Ewers had the year that he wanted and the year that he was supposed to have. But I think because of what he has done, he'll end up in the 4th round. Because we've seen year in and year out, quarterbacks there's some quarterbacks that are supposed to go in the 2nd round that go in the 1st. Some quarterbacks that are supposed to go in the 3rd round that go in the 1st round, 2nd round. People get desperate for quarterbacks.
Mhm.
So I have a feeling, barring another injury between now and the draft, or just an absolutely utter like dismantlement of play in the combine. I think Quinn Ewers finds his way in the 4th round, but I agree. I think his talent level and where his projectability is more 6th roundish. But just people get they get trigger happy on quarterbacks in the draft.
I think he's I think he's a day 3 talent. I think he's going to go day 1 personally.
Oh, you think he's going to go
another
day
Drake
1?
May? I think he's going to end up being another Drake May personally.
Yeah.
He's going to go somewhere. He's going to be a project and he's never going to develop.
Nah, what's Daniel Jones? Who actually beat the Seahawks this year?
Which,
yeah,
geez.
he's a name in the quarterback market too that I
there
think
you
you got to
go.
watch.
There's another one.
Because
Well,
Daniel,
when I watch Ewers throw, he doesn't take a lot of risks, and when he does take risks, they're bad risks.
Yeah.
They're very, very bad ones. And that to me reminds me of every throw I watched Drake May throw at NC. It was like, okay, he throws a lot of safe ones, but then his risky throws are horrible. The only difference is Quinn Ewers doesn't have half the athleticism Drake May has.
Yeah.
And
Joel,
May has
Jalen-
at least a little bit of wheels.
Joel,
Right.
what are your thoughts on Daniel Jones? Because he got DFA'd or cut or released and then picked up by Minnesota. And now I think he's a free agent, as Jace put. Where does he end up? Does he come back home to New York? Probably not. But where does he end up, and what does his future look brighter?
My answer to your last question is, to me, no, doesn't look very bright. But maybe I'm just a disgruntled Giants fan from past, and I'm just kind of, like, oh yeah, we want this high and dry. Busy buddy, the one time. But no, I would. No, I know it's some of it's self-inflicted, but I also know that it's because of the offensive line. I don't. There's Daniel Jones to me, not in terms of proven, but just in terms of like issues, is the same as the problems I would see for Aaron Rodgers. I feel like if you don't have a very consistent offensive line around him, I don't see the results that everybody like hopes and dreams of. I don't see that happening.
Is it Brian Dable? Is he the guy that runs the offense there in New York? I'm thinking it's him. I can
Not
see his
anymore,
face.
I don't think.
it is Brian Dable.
It is Brian
He's
Dable. Okay, so
still there?
he was on.
They still let him. Oh my
So
goodness.
they had what's it called? The Hard Knocks. They had the
Yeah.
Hard Knocks last year, and he grills quarterbacks. I have heard Brian Dable come out and say Daniel Jones is one of the smartest people he's ever talked to, and Dable is pretty good at what he's talking about when he's grilling these quarterbacks. I think he had Caleb Williams on there on that episode, and he's grilling these guys. He's like, "What do you do? What does X receiver do here? Okay, what does wide receiver do there? Nope, that's not what he does. What does Z receiver do?" And just grilling these guys. And if he had high value on Daniel Jones versus when I see Gruden grill guys, which I think he does a better job because obviously we've seen quarterbacks really rise to the top, and Dable has not really produced that. I'm always curious on what Daniel Jones has moving forward because he's still 28, 27.
Joel,
not-
I hate to say this.
Gavin, here's a question. If you can't re-sign Geno Smith, who would you rather have leading the offense in Seattle? Daniel Jones, Sam Howell?
I mean, because he beat us. Daniel Jones, because here. Okay, let me phrase it like this. I would rather see a competition between the two, and then make my decision. Because Sam Howell is an air raid type guy, and I like that. But knowing that Clint Kubiak wants a fullback and wants to install the run game more, yeah, I'm curious to see what that looks like under Daniel Jones because I think he can run that style of offense pretty good. Obviously, working with Saquon and running with a fullback. Hopefully, we can get another Mike Allstott back.
I just don't think he costs what Geno's going to cost in free agency.
Yes, that's the key point right there.
And is he worth the
cost.
percentage difference? Let's say Geno goes out there, gets $50 million, and you're only having to pay Daniel Jones $30 million. Is he worth that 60% of Geno Smith? like has to. I
Here's
don't know
the
if he is or
thing
not.
with Daniel Jones though, like, and Joel, I'm sorry, but like the Giants franchise organization at the top is a mess.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was
Like,
I can say some of it's stuff.
we were sitting here and talking about look at the players that have done well that have left the Jets. Didn't a guy just win a ring in Philly?
1
that just left the
year
Giants?
after.
I remember driving to work one day and hearing this is like 4 or 5 years ago. This is why I thought Daboll was long gone. Or maybe this wasn't 4 or 5 years ago, but this was not recently. And they were talking preseason about how the Giants had hired 3 offensive line coaches.
Oh.
And everyone was just laughing because they're like, there's no way that's going to work because that's 3 different voices,
offensive,
3 different chiefs all trying to tell everyone what to do. And it's just like, and they're just like, yeah, that's just epitomizes the Giants franchise of stuff they would do.
Lindsay, I don't think we ever asked who's your squad when it comes to football.
I'm a Rams fan.
oh, there you go.
Rams.
Mhm.
Rams.
Ooh,
And Stafford.
ooh.
Stafford's another name.
I was
Stafford's
just about to
another
say that.
name.
I respect Matt.
Let me ask. I want to ask one question to Lindsay though.
He's been in big games.
How do you feel about Cooper Kupp? being
I'm
traded?
so sad. Like
Oh,
I am.
I'm so.
Yeah, well, he's not being asked back. What like?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not being re-signed.
Basically, he gone.
Nuts.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I think it's a huge loss. I understand where they're coming from. I think they kind of need to do a lot of tweaks. Obviously, we won in 2021, or they won, not we. But
We. If you
Well, I
paid
mean-
for one game in your life, it's we.
It's your squad. That's your squad. That's a we thing.
the broadcaster in me is like, we never say we.
Oh,
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just my force of habit. But I mean, I wasn't expecting it. I kind of thought he would have been. I honestly, I kind of thought he would be a lifer. I think outside of football, like the things he's done for LA, him and his wife have been incredible. I just think he's a good name for the Rams, and he's a recognizable name. He's been there long enough. People know him. People love him. I thought that was kind of. I mean, I literally like. I think I didn't even see the ESPN notification. I went on Instagram, and saw like his wife's post, and I was like,
Yeah.
and my dad texted. He's like, "Don't talk to me," and I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
understood."
Fun
That's what I
fact:
heard.
Cooper Kupp's from Washington.
Mhm.
Went to
He played at
Eastern Washington.
Mhm.
He's an FCS guy. He's
His
a
His
Big
sister
Sky
played
guy.
soccer. His sister played soccer at Eastern Washington.
so
Mhm.
Ty and I were actually at Wazoo when they played Eastern Washington, and they had Cooper Kupp, and I believe his name was Vernon Adams, who ended up going to Oregon. And they had one of the nastiest offenses,
Yeah.
like
Who was that
of
quarterback? That was
FCS.
throwing like 700 yards a game every game.
Yeah,
What was
Vernon
his
Adams
name?
was Vernon Adams.
That was his name? Okay.
Yeah, he ended up going to Oregon. He was just kind of
Yeah.
average, but Vernon Adams was absolutely dirt nasty.
Yeah,
Anyways, Cooper.
he rides the Big Sky rides Cooper Kupp's coattails all the way.
Yeah.
He's in the Big Sky commercial that we show during.
I thought you were
every
going to say
single game.
they ride something else, but I
No.
agree. They ride his coattails.
They
Pause.
HR.
that was good response.
Yeah, he's like him winning the Super Bowl is in like the Big Skies like commercial that we show
Yeah.
every game. I think it's a huge. I'm bummed. I'm like I haven't felt that. I mean, Corey Seager, Cooper. I probably won't follow
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp. I don't love him as much as I love Seager, but I think it's a huge loss for them.
Start
Like-
loving Puka Nakua, because that is
No, I
Cooper Kupp
can't.
2.0. That is
I
Cooper
can't
Kupp
get on that
2.0.
train. I'm not a guy.
He's going to put up the numbers. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that's fine. But like,
Yeah.
I'm
It's
more
not
of like
Cooper Kupp.
I think it's the broadcaster. I'm more of a people. Like, I think you can be a fantastic player, but if you're not a good person, I don't care.
Fair.
And I think it is
Yeah.
the pure broadcaster in me where I'm like, I can't talk about you in a good way. Like, I don't like you.
Dion.
Yeah, I can't stand that man. Or Aaron Rodgers.
Okay,
So,
do we have time for another Dion segment? No, I'm joking.
Right? Let's go. No.
I
Get me
love
talking, I can
controversy,
talk.
man.
I
More
can
controversy,
talk
the
all day.
better.
Right?
I got a text from Jace like a week after that, and he was like, "Your face when we talk about Dion is insane." And I was like, I don't
I'm
hide
sorry.
my
I was
disgust.
editing that segment, and the minute somebody goes Dion, you just see Lindsay going to straight
Just-
kill mode. It was a damn switch. She went from that.
Consistent.
I was like,
Boom.
It's
Nope.
the same way. Aaron Rodgers, Deion Sanders, the San Francisco Giants. Like that's truly Tiger Woods. 4. That's truly like
Like-
where, like, and you have to think about it though. Like broadcaster, me, I don't get to share my opinions ever. I was like, so when I get to share my opinions, I'm like, oh, let me tell you because they're all just racked up in here.
I think that's the funniest thing about like working in the sports media, being a broadcaster, is like there's there's two different sides of it. There's the athlete, and it's like you're a straight up dog. Like I'll give you that. But then you like if you go to interview them afterwards, it's like, man, and I learned that the hard way. I went to UNM for a UNM Highlands exhibition, and I was allowed
The
in
pit.
the press. Yeah. Oh, the pit's unreal.
It is unreal.
And I got to go into the press conference afterwards. It was my first time being in a press conference. Like I had written up questions and everything. And UNM's head coach, I'm not going to say which men's or women's squad, which one it was, but I was like, this guy, the audacity this guy has, like, good for you. You just beat a D2 school by 30. That's what you're supposed to do. Like, buddy,
Yeah.
you ain't all like, it's just like you see the
press
two
conference
sides.
is a press conference is a different beast, and I think that's is what's cool about being a former athlete and then becoming a broadcaster or like getting into the sports media world is you see it both ways. And I think that was something that I've been able to use to my advantage is I've worked in like the information's office and as a broadcaster and as an athlete, and so I can understand where they're coming from. But as a broadcaster, also, when coaches have an attitude, I totally understand this is your job, your livelihood. But like watching, what interview was that? Oh, Bobby Hurley's presser from their like millionth loss last night or something like that. And he was talking about how his team doesn't even want to talk to him. And I was like, at that same time, though, this is not those reporters' faults that you guys lost.
Yeah, the Hurleys.
Inward.
The Hurleys have been known to be hot-headed.
My
and-
favorite coach to ever watch a press conference of was Mike Leach.
Leach,
Never talked about football.
Unbothered is the best way to describe it.
This man went
Hilarious
on a 10-minute rant
Pirates.
about
Mythical creatures.
what mascot would win the Pac-12 fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Coug will find a way. The Coug will always find a way.
Yeah, he said the Coug will find a way. I mean, he's out here talking about Harry Potter. If the Sun Devil has magical, I mean, man, whatever.
Like that's what makes
what
it,
kind
like,
of mythical
that's
powers
fun.
does the Sun Devil have?
That's fun though. Think about that. Like that's fun.
That would be awesome.
I'd take that all day
Mhm.
versus like Bobby Hurley being like, I don't know what you want from me. Gets up and leave, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I want
'Cause
you to
that's
answer my
blatant-
questions.
that's blatant disrespect. Mike Leach is just complete. I'll say it again. He's completely unbothered. Doesn't matter what question you ask him, as long as it's not abrupt and rude, he will answer it to the best of his ability.
See, and that's so awesome. I've had coaches like I'll be on the sideline, like I'm doing my interview, and I have coaches look at me and they go like this and walk away, and I'm like,
I've had that too.
and then
I've
they
had
think,
that
but
too.
they're like, I gave you the nod, and I'm like, no, we're not like two Jeeps passing by each other going like, hey. I was like, no, your job is here next to me so that I can do my
Yeah.
job. Your job is to win games. My job is to report win or lose. So like, back it up.
Yep.
Take a seat. And like I've had coaches that can lose by 40 and they will still come and be so nice to me and give me the best answer possible. And then I have coaches that are like, it's my fault. Like I was out there and I dropped the ball 7 times.
Right.
I didn't have 12 turnovers to lose by 30 or missed a 3-point shot to lose by 2. Like that's not me.
I think one of the funniest things is like a broadcaster reporter like that area when you interview a coach. I did it a few times this year with Highlands football. They lost some games big time. And, our head coach, big Samoan guy, scares the life out of people because of how big he is. I mean, he played in the league, for crying out loud. But like he, oh, Jace, how you doing? Good coach. We do our questions. And I see him start walking the locker room and I feel so bad for those players because I know they
He's
are
gonna unleash.
screwed.
Well,
He's gonna unleash.
I talk to guys all the time and they're like, oh, coach is so nice to you. And I'm like, what is like the nice one? And I'm like, what is he going to do? I'm a 23-year-old girl standing on the sideline with my little headset on and my microphone. and he respects that I'm doing this is my job. He's not going to be mean to me.
No.
You know, like I had a coach 2 days ago that it was my last women's game because I'm moving on from ESPN after this season, and she was like, I'm gonna miss you. She was like, I've been covering them for 5 years. And she was like, this is so unfortunate. And I was like, hugged me. And then I have coaches that will literally look at me and be like, your fault. And I'm like,
Are those sideline interview availabilities obviously like the post games are, but like are the sideline interviews, are those written into coaches' contracts?
it depends on the coach and it depends on the school. Sometimes if it's like, obviously like, don't hold me to it, but sometimes if it's more of someone that we know to be hot-headed, it can be written in. Other times it's also just like an expectation. And I've only ever had one coach that did it, and it was the most bizarre thing because he was the nicest coach like I've ever met. Like wanted to write me a letter of recommendation for grad school, but then would come to the sideline and like just wouldn't. Like it was like like we would be like, oh my God, like here he comes. Like everyone drop everything you're doing. Please be ready by the time this man gets to us. And I mean, he's the only coach. And I've worked with some tough people in sports. Gavin knows some tough people I've worked with in sports. And I mean, like it's crazy. And I used to think it was a girl thing. It's not a girl thing. I've seen them do it to everyone. It's not a girl thing.
Well, I would just think it's a head coach of a program, especially like I see it in football the most, where they're sitting on the sideline talking for 30, 40, 50 seconds. And I'm like, don't you have things you'd rather be doing as a coach? Like other things you'd rather be addressing?
I mean, and here's my thing with that is like I'm training a new sideline reporter right now. And so I've kind of had to look back at like how I started and like how I take it. And I know you learn these coaches very well and you learn all of their little things that make them tick. I know that if they win, I can get 3-4 questions in sometimes and they'll just keep talking because they don't care. I know if they lose, I've got about 10 seconds to get my question out. I better not stumble. And it needs to be something that is not negative. And that's like the hardest thing to teach is everyone's like, well, I want to ask about the 37-point loss or the missed 3-pointer to win the game. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's not good TV.
That's
and people don't care.
Trouble.
And that's
it just seems like you would almost need to write this in the contracts though, because from a coach's standpoint, it seems like it would almost be perceived initially just as an inconvenience no matter what from a mutual standpoint. And
it's hard too because you got to grab them on their way out and it's a whole, I mean, I love my job very much and I love what I do and how I do it. It is one of the worst parts of the job, especially, I mean, everyone knows after they lose, because I'm like, I know you want to go in your locker room or you want to leave right now and go see your wife and kids, but like, I need to now pull you, have you answer questions about a game that you don't want to talk about. And then you have to go talk about it again.
Accountability.
And then, and then they had the press conference. Like this is a separate thing. So it's a lot, but I mean, it also like provides a lot of insight and, things we're trying to teach is like, it's okay to ask the uncomfortable questions, but like not to ask, like, if you're working for the Jets, you're not going to be like, so Aaron Rodgers, like you're not, that's not my job to ask that. That's those reporters in the press conference. My job is to sum up the game, plain and simple.
Lindsay, it's stories like that I wish you had the opportunity to interview Joel when he played. Because I know there's just no way you take that smile off that guy's face. There's just no way. Even he could sack like 3 guys in a row and be like, "Hey, buddy, come on up, get you. Come on, I got you." I want to. I wish that had happened.
You would be surprised. Like some of the nicest people after a game winner. Like I don't know, Joel, the kind of player you were back in the day, but I mean, I've some nice men. Nice girl. I mean, you look and they're just like, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, I know that's not. I know. Yeah, and like, I mean, what I'm trying to tell this poor girl that I'm trying to be like, take my position when I leave. I'm like, they're gonna look at you like they want to hurt you. Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal.
Yeah.
I'm just standing there doing my job, my headset, my dress, and doing my thing with my little notebook. It's not me. I am not the problem here.
Yeah.
It's y'all.
And
so
Lindsay, you also.
Mindset.
You also alluded to, we had worked together. Obviously, the group knows and everything. Was there players or coaches, or you don't need to name names? Was there
No, I won't.
players on that Flagstaff team that got they were just hard to work with?
I don't think player wise, because they were all just kind of like so happy to be there because I think a lot of them hadn't played summer ball before. When I'd worked for like a different more established summer ball team, definitely players. It was more upper division managers. Not even I would say coaches, but I'm sure Gavin, without me saying it, that you probably can put the pieces together on who it was. That just made my life incredibly hard.
Yeah.
I was also still pretty green, and I was whatever needed to be done. I was there. I worked many hours unpaid for the Flagstaff Star Chasers. I never saw a dime for that internship. Yep. And I would still do it all over again. But
that was a fun summer.
It was a fun summer.
It was a fun summer, and we had to piece that thing together. And I'll just go ahead and say it. The guy that ran this organization did not necessarily. He did a lot, but he didn't do
anything.
He didn't do a lot for us. So for reference, we didn't have a place to live when we were going up there. We didn't have an Airbnb. We didn't have anything like that. My wife, who is my girlfriend at the time, had to look on Airbnb, and we had to find something. Yeah, and we had to find something.
Did you get engaged while we were in Flagstaff?
We did. Yeah.
Okay, I remember this. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's still her. It's still her.
No, I figured.
It's the same girl. It's the same girl. I love my wife.
I remember you getting engaged. I remember being like, "Oh my God, Gavin's got engaged."
It was either going to be that or Gavin was about to get caught up in a mess. That's all I know was about to happen right there. And he was about to get caught up.
But it was a very rough. It was a lot of promises. Yeah. And very few of them were seen through, and it was really hard. I had come from a team that had host families, and they had a set schedule, and they compensated their people, and they took care of them, and they brought in. It was
well, here's what's crazy about the whole thing, and I don't know how much awareness you had into this. It was unorganized. I will 100% agree. It was unorganized. We didn't know who we were going to play next week. That's how bad it was unorganized. The schedule wasn't even fully set.
Do you remember when that coach went in to play left field?
Yep. Yeah, there was a couple teams that only had 8 players and coaches.
The 65-year-old coach, all of a sudden you look up and he's out in left field.
65?
I have a video. I'll send it in the group chat later. It was the funniest moment of my life.
He was smoking.
The sprinklers went off mid-game.
He was smoking a hater too, by the way. But that's the type of summer it was. But for as unorganized as we were, the rest of the league had to shut down because they were so unorganized. That's how bad they were.
It was the last season.
And it was the last season. There's no more. They tried to revive it. I know Randy tried to revive the team the next year. He even got Phoenix College's former head coach, who's now Eastern Arizona's head coach, got him up there and everything, and they still nothing. They didn't have anybody to play.
I honestly think it was, my parents say it was like the best thing that ever happened to me because I learned truly what I never want to do again. And I was only 20 at that time. And it was like my first summer living in Flagstaff full time. And I'm going, every day because I was like the manager's right hand. And we did 4th of July parade. I hand painted the beads these guys threw out so that they would be red, white, and blue on a shower tarp on the floor of my apartment. Like if I had known Gavin, like I know him now, like I probably would have told him all this, but you guys, it was like insane. Like I went to Prescott to follow them. I got 2nd-degree burns on my face from the sun.
Oh, you did.
And the guys started calling me scabby.
Oh,
I'm 20 years old. My sister comes to visit. Like 3 of these guys try and like flirt with my sister who's like 18, and I was like, you guys need to chill. I was like, what is happening? I was like, I need to go home. And then what's
crazy is now that you know the team, you know the coaches, you know most of us.
We're all great people.
If you would have asked us, like, hey guys, we need help for this parade that we got going on, I guarantee you,
I would have asked. I would have asked.
I guarantee you. I know Lawrence. I would have forced Lawrence to go in there.
I love
Tyga would have helped.
Tyga.
I loved him.
Yeah. What's funny?
Tyga's
So
not-
yeah, Jace
Tyga-
played with Tyga.
Yeah,
Okay,
Tyga
I
was my
remember
teammate.
Violence.
He decided he was staying. I remember that. I just was
Yep.
talking to
He's
someone.
still here.
Oh my god.
He's still here in Las Vegas.
Is he
That's
just
great.
finishing school now?
He's done with school.
Tyga
just liked
Sato,
it.
man, he is
He was a
is
Man,
the coolest
loved him.
person.
But like I
Love
was
that guy.
who Austin Petey is coming, I think, tomorrow to play Arizona State. And I was talking to my roommate about it, and I think a player from Star Chasers played there. Justin Olson. Do you remember him?
Justin Olson. Let's take a look at
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
maybe I'm getting my summer teams
That-
mixed up, but I'm pretty sure.
that's a name that rings a bell for me, and I don't even
I
know
think
why.
he started at like some other random school. I looked up his bio earlier. But it was such a fun summer. I didn't even get super close with the team until like the last like 2 weeks, and then I was like, oh, I'm sad this is ending. There was me and there was 2 other interns, and they did all the broadcasting. I did stats, photos. I helped write articles for the newspaper on them. I became friends with like the parents. Like the parents would like bring me snacks to the games. And it was like it was genuinely, we played at a high school baseball field with 1 set of bleachers. And we would bring in every game our own folding table and 3 chairs. We bought our own speaker. You guys, it was like a fever dream. Like I tell my parents about this, and like they never believed me. And my sister came to visit, and she went home and was like, "No, Mom, Dad, like you need to get her out of this. Like it's so bad." The guys and I were like bonded by trauma. Like the other interns, it's like it used to be. I won't say the name of our group chat on this because it goes on the internet, and it calls out people's names. But
Fair.
we still text. Like when Gavin reached out to me, I was like, "You guys," and they were
Guess
like,
who reached out?
They were like, "That is not who we thought you were gonna say." We were like, "Thank God it was him," and I was like, "I know." It was like, it was awesome. It was great. The team was great. The guys were great. The coaches were great. Gavin might be the only coach I remember, but
David
players-
and what's cool,
Oh, yeah.
just an update. David is still the head coach at Southwest Oregon Community College. And then why am I blanking on his name? He's now the head coach at Clarendon. He's the head coach at Clarendon Community College, which is in the middle of nowhere, West Texas. So they're both doing well now.
They were all so great, and it was all like we were all learning together, I think, which was really fun. There was just definitely some upper executive things that did not connect, and it really was like a day by day. Like we would put out a schedule, and I'd get a text like 20 minutes later, and it was like, "Oh, it's completely changed. We have no games for 3 weeks," and we were like,
"Yeah, that's what." Yeah,
crazy.
we got told that same thing because I think there was
Mhm.
one day where we had a rainout.
Mhm.
And they were like, "Hey, games canceled, but also the next like 10 games are canceled too."
And like we
So,
would have
okay.
players like a team would come and we would give them some of our players.
Yep.
Do you remember? Like,
It
yes,
was-
like it
yeah.
was.
We had a player.
honestly, you had to be there.
Yeah, we had a player that wanted to. He wasn't the head coach of his team was not responding to him, and so he just showed up in Flagstaff. This kid was from Ohio, just showed up in Flagstaff, and I asked Randy and the rest of the team. I was like, "Hey, like, could we use another catcher?" And we could, but he had to go play for the other team because they had nobody.
Mhm.
I think they had 6 guys, and so they shuffled him out there, and he had to live in this shack or cabin that they had. What was the name of that town with a White Mountain team? Sholo.
Sholo? No.
Sholo. Yeah, they were
Sholo.
living in a cabin out in the middle of nowhere, Sholo.
Yeah.
Arizona.
It was like I remember like them being like, Oh yeah, oh my god, it was just I mean, the kids came like somehow it all came together. Like there were kids camps we did, and like the players all showed up. It would be me and the coaches and the players at like 6 in the morning signing these kids in. And it honestly it feels like a fever dream time of my life. And I go back and look at pictures sometimes and I'll send pictures in the group chat of me sitting on the floor of my apartment painting these beaded necklaces, red, white, and blue. And like it was just on I mean you can follow us on Instagram. The Instagram is still around. I have removed myself as far away as possible. I think I unfollowed the account. But it was a great team. It was a great little community. I think it honestly trauma bonded all 20 something of us together forever. Like all the guys still follow me on Instagram and like will like comment. I think when I posted my job, like 3 of them were like, "Oh my God, so happy for you." And I was like,
we really did have a good group of guys, and
Yeah.
Jace actually played with a lot of those guys. He played with Tyga, who didn't play on PGS, and then he played with Lucas White. He played with
Okay, I remember
Elijah
him.
Henning. Elijah Henning had his first ever outfield appearance, and he gave up a grand slam playing outfield. I'll tell you why. This was the first game, and we were
Off the
winning
glove or off the head?
off the glove. He went to go. He went to go play it, and he's never played outfield
remember this.
before. And he was trying to find the wall, so he's doing one of these, and then boom!
Imagine
off,
watching it live, guys. Imagine
Yeah.
watching it live.
and
Okay.
it was a grand slam.
We actually had that happen this week. It wasn't a grand slam, but it was a home run. She went back, was feeling the wall, stuck her glove up, and it hit. And I'm like, oh, cool. And then I just see the ball, and I'm like, not good.
Never mind.
Yeah. No, and it was, I mean, it honestly, like, but I think the best part is like, you would leave after every game. And I don't think anyone went home and thought about the results except maybe the coaches for like the rest of the night. Like, these guys were not going home. And like, Flagstaff's a small town. Like, there's not a lot to do. I don't want to know what they were getting into. I could assume because I've heard I meet random people and they're like, "Oh, you mean that team that was just here for a summer?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah." I was like, "Yeah." Or my friends would like throw out their names, and I was like, "I understand what they're doing," but like, it was just kind of like it was honestly the most nonchalant thing ever. And now I know my worth because let me tell you how I was treated. 0.
Well, we're coming up on an hour 50, so we're gonna shut it down here. We're gonna get final thoughts from y'all, and then we'll shut it down.
Aaron Rodgers needs to retire. The Flagstaff Star Chasers need to make a reappearance and have a alumni get together. And that's all
I can get Tyga on here.
We need Tyga.
I can get Tyga here tomorrow. That's how fast I can get Tyga.
I forgot what city in Japan is he from again?
Japan.
Yeah, that's the city. Japan.
That's pretty much.
I have no idea. If I'm being completely honest with you, I have no idea.
Tyga is one of the coolest human beings I've ever met.
Awesome.
You're gonna love this guy. Yes,
so
please,
nice.
Please get Tyga on here. We would love to have him on.
Tyga.
Yeah, I know everybody here. He's kind of like Joel. There's just no way you can't get you just no way you
just
can't
like
get along.
smiles all the time and like walks around. Like, he would just like walk onto the field and we'd be smiling and he'd be like, "Hey, Lindsay," and I was like, "It's pouring rain. Why are you smiling?" He's like, "I'm just glad to be here," and I'm like, "Okay."
There's just zero way you cannot get you have to get along with this guy. It's impossible to not get along with this guy. He's the coolest. Yeah. Any other final thoughts from you guys?
I got nothing.
Guys, it's been a blast.
It has been. For Up West Sports, that's Ty, that's Gavin, that's Joel, that's Lindsay, I'm Jace. We appreciate y'all watching.